Welcome to the Habits of Health Power Half Hour, where we go through Dr. A's Habits of Health one section at a time so that you can create a powerful knowledge base that will equip you for your journey into lifelong health and optimal well being. My name is Cassondra Reagan, and I am an independent Optavia coach. So, today, we are continuing with section 2.5, and we have been going through this section for several weeks now. But we have been talking about Dr. A's Habits of Health entitled Choosing Wisely, Dr. A's color-coded shopping system. And in our last episode, we reviewed how to choose healthy protein selections, focusing on lean options and appropriate portion sizes. Today, we're going to discuss how to select the right kinds of carbohydrates that will fuel your body without elevating your levels of insulin and turning you into a fat storage machine. And just to pause here, you guys, Norma, I am redoing the last time we did it when you were on here. I'm redoing the carbs because I did not because it was really informal when I did it before, and I didn't do it appropriately to do it for my YouTube series. So this is information you've heard before, and I'm sorry. So going back to Dr. A's healthy eating plate system, you will remember that 25% of your plate will be lean protein, 25% will be vegetables, and 25% will be fruit, or you can do 50% vegetables. And the final 25% should be whole grains or a healthy starch. Don't forget why whole grains are the key. In their natural low glycemic state, they're critical for optimal health. So if you'll remember, in our new life as a person of health, we no longer eat ultra-processed white flours and grains that have been stripped of their fiber and micronutrients. We don't do it anymore. So those food products have become highly glycemic and immediately put us in a fat storage mode. Rather, we now live a lifestyle where we choose whole grains, which take longer to digest. We choose starches that have less sugar and more fiber so that they don't impact our blood sugar and raise our insulin levels. And if you have forgotten what low glycemic versus high glycemic means and how it affects fat storage, then go back and listen to episode 35 to brush up on the dysfunctional use of processed grains and why they have to be avoided at all costs. So your grain choices can either set you up for success or completely sabotage, derail your health efforts. So in fact, a majority of Americans are metabolically busted because of their carbohydrate choices. Before I show you the charts so that you can begin to familiarize yourself with the different types of carbohydrates and starches that are the best options for you, let's talk portion size. A healthy portion of a whole grain or a healthy starch is the size of a tennis ball. Or again, the proportion would be 1/4 of a 9-inch plate. So there are a wide variety of grains out there, many of which fall into the unhealthy high glycemic category. Just stay in the green and you'll be fine. I don't know if you remember, but our charts have green, dark green, light green, yellow. Sometimes they get into the orange, and then the red is toxic, avoid at all costs. So if you'll stay in the green, you should be fine. Dr. A has included white potatoes, by the way, actually a root vegetable, in the unhealthy starch section because their high glycemic, high carbohydrate content means they function more as a starch in most meals. And we know starch breaks down to sugar very quickly. So let's look at some charts. So let's first start with cereals, breads, and pastas. Ideally, when it comes to any type of whole grain or starch, you want to stay unprocessed, right? So bread, pasta, all those things have been processed. In other words, they're not in their natural original state. However, you can have breads that are still relatively low glycemic. So quinoa is 35. Anything 50 or less, we can consider low glycemic indexed. Muesli in its natural state, rye bread, unrefined flour. So that's going to be whole grain flours. Unrefined flour for bread and pasta, buckwheat, whole grain pasta, whole wheat bread with the bran, all bran cereal, and sourdough bread. Sourdough bread, because of a fermentation process, it's actually much lower glycemic. Now, let's look at the high glycemic index. This is 50 or more. You may see something, or at least one thing on here that surprises you, and it surprised me. Oatmeal is a higher glycemic index. Then, of course, hamburger roll, something you would assume would be on there. Refined cereals, we all know that, right? Cornflakes, made from corn. Corn is very high glycemic. White bread, very high glycemic. White bagel, white dinner roll, white Kaiser roll, crackers. Now let's talk about oatmeal. Oatmeal is a whole grain, okay? And if you can go back to episode 35 and review low glycemic versus high glycemic, you will remember that one way you can reduce the glycemic load or the glycemic impact of a food on your blood sugar, in other words, kind of make it less like lower glycemic, is if you combine it with a lower glycemic food. So for instance, I made my boys oatmeal today. I actually put some unflavored protein powder in it just to give them more protein because they're boys, they're trying to get protein, but also it lowered the glycemic index of the oatmeal. So it essentially, the two glycemic indexes were averaged out. So protein has a glycemic index of 0 because there's no carbohydrates in it. Oatmeal, as you can see, is like 58. So really, it brought it closer to about 27. So that's just a little tip. Now let's look at the commercial breakfast products. As you can imagine, there's like one, only one that's considered low glycemic, and that's All Bran because it's all bran, right? Then, of course, all these other processed commercial breakfast products, which probably shouldn't even be considered breakfast products, all of the high sugar, high carb options, they really should be closer to the red, in my opinion. Let's look at a next list. Pasta, potatoes, rice, glycemic index chart. The low glycemic index, the things you wanna shoot for, things like wild rice, right? Yams, sweet potatoes. They have more fiber, less sugar. They have a lower glycemic index. Whole wheat spaghetti, spaghetti durum, basmati rice. We use basmati rice in my house because it's much lower. Even the white basmati rice, you can find white and brown basmati rice. Even the white has a much lower glycemic index than just regular white rice. Sweet potatoes, brown rice. Now, higher glycemic index, white pasta, of course. Potatoes with skin, baked or broiled. Now, remember in episode 35, the more you cook and break down a food, the higher glycemic index it has. So a whole baked potato is 65, but if you boil and peel, take some of the fiber off of it, then you boil it, it shoots up to 70, the same potato. Then if you mash it, you break it down anymore, that means it gets digested even faster. The quicker that a food gets digested, the quicker it can impact your blood sugar. So look, you take a potato with skin and baked, and it's 65. Then you decide to take off the fiber off of it and boil it, it's 70. Then you mash that same potato, its glycemic index is now 80. Take instant mashed potatoes, look, 88, right? French fries, right? 95. Risotto, which essentially is rice-shaped pasta. Rice cakes, that's a health food, right? No, wrong. Super high glycemic. And pre-cooked rice. Finally, let's talk about the thing that most of us cannot seem to walk away from: unhealthy starches. Firstly, it's not your fault that you struggle. Processed starches and sugars are, by their very design, incredibly addictive. But we have to accept the truth that these starches are simply poison to our body. They're convenient, inexpensive, readily available, and they're actually designed to light up the pleasure centers of our brain to make us crave more, but they overstimulate your insulin production, turn on that fat storage. They set your body on fire with inflammation, and they cause a dumpster fire of problems in your systems, leading to metabolic syndrome. And that's a fast track to death and disease. So if you keep going back to these starches in phase one, you will never enter fat burn. And if you want to live a life of health and manage your weight long term, you have to come to the mindset of, oh, I don't eat that anymore, rather than, oh, I can't eat that, I'm trying to lose weight. So let's look at a chart really quickly. It's simple, guys. Donuts, sodas, cookies, candy, French fries, all incredibly toxic, unhealthy starches and sugars. They break down super fast. They shoot your blood sugar up super quickly, which causes your body to just unload insulin. We know insulin is a hormone. Yes, it drops your blood sugar, but it also turns on your fat storage mechanism, and it leads to long-term chronic low-grade inflammation, which is the bedrock of so many different diseases. And of course, this list is not comprehensive. Anything that uses super refined white sugar, white flour, and then you fry it in polysaturated oils or seed oils or omega-6 oils, it becomes a nightmare for our health. Well, that is it for today, everyone. Next time, we will finally finish section 2.5 by reviewing how to shop for fats, and also we'll look at the importance of water, fiber, and gut health. And if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends who need greater health in their lives. So have a blessed week, and I'll see you next time.